Welcome to our podcast on values-led leadership. We continue with a conversation with Dr. Reuel Khoza. Businesses today do not exist in isolation. They exist in an ecosystem. And successful businesses of the future are those that are able to locate themselves within the context in which they operate. Purpose-led businesses are those that realize that their success is not premised on the success of an individual leader, but successful leaders are those that know that their success is dependent on others. And the concept of Ubuntu is ever so important in today's world, where as leaders, we not only see ourselves, but it is important that we understand that we work in an ecosystem and you must collaborate. To take us through the conversation, I think it would be useful just to hear a bit from Charlene, specifically on the question around how does morality connect with ways of doing business? Because some people say business is hard. Business is about numbers, and actually morality has nothing to do with it.
Thank you, Alex. As we reflect on Ubuntu today again, one often thinks about the state of the world and state of business. And I think many people would agree that there's a bit of a crisis of morality in many organizations. The amount of corporate scandals that still proliferate calls to us to come up with a way of living and a way of being where we can practice values. Now, people have sometimes questioned the Ubuntu value in Africa and said, where is it? And to them I want to say, but where is your values in the Western context? It's all of us that need to rethink our moral compass. It's all of us that need to go and say, what is this values-based approach to business? Do we?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Alex, for the again, beautiful intro to this segment of our podcast on values and living values as part of G20 and Values 20. So thank you, Charlene, on the morality part. Business, like Alex said, is an ecosystem. It's understanding where your business is located and how you align and link up with what's going on in that part of the world, in that industry. Business is about relationships. And it's very, very important. As we lean into this next part here, Dr. Khoza, just coming back to you on just doing business. We have business and then we have politics. And then we have the environment, the ecosystem. We have climate change. We have ageism. And with young people now, we talk about millennials, we talk about Gen Zs and alphas. And now apparently the workplace is now occupied by all generations now found in the virtual world of work. So when we look at that, some of the biggest challenges are not just meeting the bottom line and achieving and delivering on the vision and the strategy of the business and business leaders. Please share a few thoughts and reflections and insights around what is it like living these values? What are the greatest challenges? Being a leader that espouses Ubuntu, you live that, you grew up in it, and it shaped your leadership. How does it show up now? You touched on it in the previous episode. Any thoughts around in this modern world of the digital world now? What are the challenges you've seen and what are the solutions we could come up with, leaning on the values of Ubuntu and living Ubuntu?
Dumisani, thank you very much. And our colleagues, Alex and Charlene, I have actually sketched something that I consider very, very important.
Yeah.
Business is part of an ecosystem. Business is embedded in an architecture. Leadership has an architecture that actually provides its leanings. What then becomes the corporate culture, the do's and the don'ts in due course. But if you look at leadership in an African context, look at Nelson Mandela, for instance. When he was growing up, he got to be led to work with an uncle because his father died a little too early. And it was during his youth that he was exposed to the workings of the bunga, or the chief or the king in council, where the king did not just come with an imposition that effectively said to those councillors that he had and the community, "Thou shalt." The king consulted. That predisposed the young Nelson Mandela to be consultative, to be cooperative, to be listening a lot more than he spoke. In later lives, he had members of his leadership group that actually provided a slightly different ecosystem. Your Sisulus, your Mbekis. These are colleagues that he respected almost unconditionally, and they in turn respected him unconditionally. And he took that to his legal practice, he took that to ultimately leading us to our democracy. The important thing is that some of those learnings are actually germane or relevant to business. Business is very much an ecosystem, is very much embedded in what you tend to do as a leadership group and not one single individual. Yeah. If you take a company like Eskom, for instance, I had the fortune of chairing it at one stage. I am no electrician. I am no chartered accountant. My understanding of treasury is dangerous, and so leadership had to circulate amongst the members of the leadership, and it was because of that. And you actually, as a chair, you coordinate the deployment or employment of talent. And that talent doesn't all reside in one person, but in a variety of people. And ultimately, because of that, the synergies that flowed from my chairmanship of Eskom, actually, in all of 5 years, had Eskom voted the Global Power Company of the Year. But not only that, even financially, Moody's rated it above the sovereign. And there are quite a number of things that actually got done as a result of the leadership understanding that leadership does not reside in somebody's office up on high. Yeah. It is actually pervasive. Yeah. It alternates depending on what in fact needs to be done. Yeah. There was a time when I relied very heavily on a guy called Bruce Crooks. That's when it came to generation. What understanding I had of generation was dangerous. And then on finance and treasury, I relied on one Willem Kok, bless their souls, they all passed on. Yeah. And as a result of that collaboration, we were able to achieve as much as we did. I want to put it perhaps in just one phrase where business leadership is concerned and where ethics and morality are concerned. A very sound leader will be as passionate as he or she is compassionate. Passion is about pursuing that which you need to do to acquire knowledgeability. Compassion is what you actually do to cultivate talents in others. Yeah. So as a good leader, you wind up being something akin to a conductor of an orchestra. Now, as a conductor of the orchestra, you may not necessarily be the best player of the oboe or the violin or the piano, but you actually extract the best in all of those. And if you're a good conductor, you are not going to only have technical performance of the song. You will inspire. And as you inspire, the performance becomes a rousing performance. And leadership is, in fact, essentially about that. Now, when issues of morality and ethics are concerned, you can't overplay that. It's so important. I want to believe that good leadership, good management is predicated on knowledgeability, if you like, expertise, if you like, effectiveness and efficiency. But that alone does not take you very far, because you can actually be a very, very effective rogue. So you actually have to combine that with ethical conduct. So a combination of knowledgeability and ethical conduct, which is predicated on sound morality, makes for good leadership, makes for optimal leadership, as it were. And where the Institute of Directors is concerned, we sort of crystallize those values. Business values, but values that are actually essential for good leadership everywhere. We came up with an acronym. You said you shouldn't use acronyms. I'll explain the acronym. ICRAFT. So ICRAFT, the I in ICRAFT stands for integrity. And integrity is about ethics and morality. It's about honesty. The C stands for, if like, capability, ability. The R for reliability. The A for accountability. And the F for fairness, because unless there is fairness in your leadership, many will complain, and very, very soon the performance of the organization will be corroded. And the I at the end, because I crafty, is more to do, the T, sorry, is to do with transparency. You cannot be opaque as a leader. People want to know what it is you stand for, and they want to be able to, in a positive manner, predict how you are going to lead, and not to keep guessing.
Wow. I love the example of the orchestrator, that you don't have to be a masterful on the piano or the guitar or any other instrument, but you extract the genius in everyone. That's the work of a great leader, being able to do that. And there's something about mentoring in there, that you already believe that there is brilliance and genius in everyone. And the job of a great leader is to co-create the space for that genius to express itself. Something about the software of that leader, the internal makings of that leader that make them be able to do that, what you are speaking to. You spoke about Ubuntu as something that helps us see through what blocks the leaders, to see through the challenges and believe already that this leader has, this person that is in my team has the brilliance that they will help deliver in this role. It's a very important one. Now, last question on this one, Dr. Khoza, around the advice you would give, because you are a mentor to many of us on Ubuntu. We read your work and we follow that. What advice would you give to a young executive today in an environment that Alex described as the ecosystem of business, that Charlene spoke to the morality that's needed in business? As a mentor of leaders, what is the advice you would give to someone to say, this is what I want you to go do, this is what I would rather you do not do, to thrive or survive in this modern world of the digital age now?
Yeah, earlier on, Dumisani, you mentioned something about artificial intelligence and then technology virtually taking over. Yeah. And there is a risk that we could actually sacrifice our sympathy and empathy to fellow humans because machines shall deliver greater efficiency. Mm-hmm. My caveat there would be that much as we might like to use technology because of the efficiency, technology should not supersede humanity. It should actually be at the service of humanity. You can't ride roughshod over humans simply because you have a machine to do the job for you. As I said earlier on, the machinery, the technology, the artificial intelligence should actually be subject to humanity, should serve humanity. You cannot dump humanity simply because you now have something more efficient occasioned by artificial intelligence. So what would I advise the emergent leaders of today? May they be political leaders, may they be business leaders. It's business leaders in the main because that's my territory. May they be political leaders. I would suggest that first they should actually crystallize their sense of destiny. Why am I here? What am I destined to deliver? Mm-hmm. And it is from there that you could then crystallize your vision and work backwards to yourself, and you could then come up with the grand design, if you like, the strategy for realizing your vision, for realizing your sense of destiny. Wow. And that is very, very important because your sense of destiny is actually pregnant with values. Wow. If you are a spiritual person, such as I am, the spirituality comes in there. It's all very well for you to understand your IQ, but that rationality is what, in fact, has been dominating human existence for quite a long time, until people actually said, let's crystallize something to do about our emotions and feelings. And you had your emotional quotient. And then others came and said, well, in fact, but we are an interrelated species. Why don't we come up with something called SQ? And they came with the social quotient. Yeah. But I want to believe that in order to square the circle, you also have to come with a spiritual dimension. Yeah. 80% of all humanity believes in a deity. Yes. And unless you understand the role of that deity, the role of that vital force that is preternatural or supernatural, and can relate to that, your understanding of humanity is not complete. Western humanism says man is the measure of all things. African humanism has a spiritual dimension. Yes. We believe in Umvelingange, the all-knowing being. We believe in the omnipotent. We believe in the omniscient, the all-knowing. We may not necessarily be able to touch that, but as a concept, as something that actually guides our existence and coexistence and interdependence, there is that bigger force, hence the spiritual or faith quotient. And I believe the four actually give the completeness of human existence that cares about others, the I-thou relationship, as opposed to the I-it relationship.
What a profound way to actually wrap up this part of the podcast. And again, two core anchors there that I pick up for leaders around being very deliberate to critically position and to think through what is your destiny. And I think that conversation around destiny for leaders, around really taking time to reflect on what is your own individual purpose. Because it is our purpose that fuels the inner self.
Yeah.
But the other dynamic is that having located self, it is important to locate self in a network.
Yeah.
That self exists in the network, and as a leader within that networks, it also requires us to think about the system. You know, the concept of systems thinking.
Yes.
To say, when I am in the system, there are different elements of the system that are interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent. And so when you are a leader and you are an orchestra conductor, you need to have an appreciation that in you is not all the intellect of humanity, but it requires a humility in understanding that there are others. Dr. Khoza talked about how he was able to leverage other technical experts around himself. The success of the organization actually rested on that ability of his leadership to look out for others that have had capabilities and skills, and the ability to synergize it and produce something magical. So absolutely grateful for values-led leadership that really sees the network, the ecosystem, and leverages that. We invite you to join us for the third podcast as we continue with Dr. Reuel Khoza. Thank you.